Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range. But for today's lesson, we're going to turn the range here into the backyard putting green, the backyard putting mat. And I'm going to talk about putting today. I guess as you all know, who've been around for any reasonable amount of time, you know that one of my biggest problems, if you want to call it that, or at least one of the things that bugs me the most is that I'm not anywhere near as good a putter as I feel I should be. I know I have some eye issues. My eyes don't focus inward very well. Dr. Lambert, who one of these years I'm going to hopefully do a video with him about eyes, how your eyes function and work, and be able to possibly give you some tests as to what you can do to see if you have other issues. But my eyes don't focus well inward. I got great peripheral vision, but they don't come inward. And I mean, what is putting all about? Finding a little spot in front of your ball and putting to that cup. And if I don't focus inward, it can be difficult for me to focus in on the hole or real small spots, and gives me some issues with seeing the putts. I also have very poor visualization. I can't see lines on the ground like most people can see, and I just don't see them. I just kind of sense everything. But the biggest issue that I have is that I just don't feel my stroke is consistent. I know we believe in that the putt has to be an arc. There's two big schools of thought today. One is that the putter should come straight back. I'm going to do it this way. Should come straight back, straight through. So in other words, I'm going to put my alignment arrow here on the mat, and we want to come. Some say come straight back, straight through, keeping the face square to the line the whole time. So the face is coming straight back and straight through like this. So it tends to come up, down, and straight back up. And normally that's been shown to me that if you try to do that stroke, you're actually going outside your line, coming in and blocking the putt. And that probably accounts for why for years when I was a cut putter, I was a pretty good cut putter. And I don't know whether it's eye issues that cause it to go away or whatever, or I just don't do that. I don't do that well anymore. And maybe it's because I finally figured out that when we went to the Scotty Cameron studio in 2003, DJ and I, in his senior year, Scotty has these phenomenal cameras that film you at ground level, and he's got some from overhead. And he saw that when we were taking a putter straight back and straight through, that the putter actually was going slightly outside the line. And we have this laser beam that he put on our club. It clipped on over here, like the lasers you can use in a conference where you're talking to people, and you can stand there and shoot the laser at the board to point out points you had written up there, or whatever. And he had it shooting right down. He had a clip. You could clip. He had a clip, and he clipped it onto the putter, and he put it right down at the sweet spot in front of it, and you could see the laser beam come straight back and go right out off the line. So if this was the aiming line, you could see it come down the line and go right out that way when we did the straight back, straight through. And he said you have to arc the putter. That's the only way the laser beam, the sweet spot, will stay on the line and release the club through impact. So what does arcing mean? Arcing means that the putter, like the swing, is swinging a little bit in an arc. So it has to open up a little going back, and it has to square up at impact and release a little. And when he said that, all of a sudden it's like, duh, how dumb could I be? I mean, what have I always said? From anything to do with a golf swing, from a wedge to a driver and everything in between, the ball doesn't know what club you're holding. I need to add from the putter to the wedge and to the driver and everything in between. It has to be an arcing swing, because we are standing beside the ball. All right, the ball's in front of us, we're standing, and we're swinging on an inclined plane. Now, naturally, the putter is the most vertical club in the bag, so it'll have the least amount of arc, and it can be the closest to dead perpendicular, which now when we see putters, those guys using the putters from the neck, if they can almost get it perfectly 90 degrees to the ground and pretty much have a pendulum stroke. And even with most of those guys, you're still going to see that because their arm is swinging the putter, especially their lower arm, that there will be a release. Naturally, belly putters have a fixed fulcrum, and then when you swing from that fixed fulcrum, the putter slightly toes open and comes back to square and toes over in the follow through. So there has to be arcing, and why? Because the arms are connected to shoulder and ball and socket joint, and the arms rotate. Rotating is going to help creating the arcing and of the toe open to square to toe shut. The swing thought of in the catcher's mitt, toe up, and then up the tree, and then down to impact where it's square, and then the forward catcher's mitt and up the tree. So it's a minimum it's a very miniature type of swing, so it has to arc. Now the point I'm going to get to here is that I've always had this issue of feeling that the club goes a little bit outside. I think my eyes have to a little bit to play with it, but I've always grabbed the putter, and I think I finally came to the conclusion that the whole problem was in my left hand. Now I'm holding my putter here right now, and my putter in my hand, if I open it, is perpendicular to the ground, which is what I say. You have to have your palms perpendicular to the ground, just like swinging a club, because perpendicular to the ground realistically creates the starting point and a point of impact. That's why it's so critical to have a good grip. Well, I've always gripped it in the, so to speak, in the lifeline. All right. Now, I'm going to start at this point and say that I'm dedicating this lesson to my brother Ken, who recently passed away, which is really a tremendous loss for me because he was such an integral part of our team and a great guy and so very talented in all the other things he could do. As like being an accountant, helping our firm out in that case, and running the customer service and helping me run the golf schools. But he was also a really, really good putter and short game. Kenny was a wizard. I could never beat him in a putting contest, and he was just unbelievable. If DJ and I putted like Kenny, I mean, it'd be scary probably how many more tournaments we would have won, and without a doubt. And Kenny just had it. And what I want to talk now about is Kenny's number one point that he emphatically believed in, and he taught everybody that, and it was like, this is it. If you want to be a putter, you got to do this. And yet, I guess it never resonated to me till I just happened to be thinking about him the other day in putting, and Kenny said, you must hold your putter in your left hand, which is your top hand. If you're a lefty, it'll be your right hand. He said you must always hold your putter actually in both hands with the grip you play with. And the assumption there is that you're playing with a relatively square grip, palms perpendicular to the ground. But there's a difference between holding it in my lifeline here like this and just getting my hand, getting it in the fingers and getting the pad of my hand up on top where I am still perpendicular to the ground. All right? As soon as, when I'm here, my whole left arm feels relaxed, comfortable if you want to call it, maybe even soft. The grip feels relatively light. Even though I squeeze it fairly firm, it's still it doesn't feel like I'm ever choking the club or it's too tight or tense. But as soon as I go to here and I get it in my fingers, and what I've been doing with my putter is I've been gripping it back here on the ground and really working my pad of my hand of the left hand on top. And again, it's really easy to feel with a flat top grip. As soon as I do that, it does two things, or a number of things. Number one, it takes me from my arm kind of being turned out that way to more on top. It changes the muscle tone of my arms because when I hold it in my palm, I'm actually having to squeeze so tight with my fingers to make sure that even though it's a relatively firm grip, I got to squeeze tighter so it doesn't, being in the palm of my hand, it doesn't twist. As soon as I get it up on there, I get a much easier, so we say, relatively firm and controlled grip with actually less pressure. And at the same time, I feel it takes the muscles from my lower arm, and I feel the muscles on the outside of my forearm right here, firm right up. And it actually gives me a higher arc to my arm. Instead of, see, when I get it in the palm, my arm hangs down more. When I get my pad of the hand on top, you can see it raises my arm. So I go from here to there. Now, the thing that's good about that is it makes me more vertical, which is going to make it easier to have more of a pendulum stroke with an arc. But the big key is I feel now that I actually get a better rotation back, a better rotation through. I'm hitting the ball much more consistently solid. And I'm starting it on a much tighter line, and I can see if I watch the putter that I got a arc going back and through without even trying to arc it. It just sets me up in all these positions to have everything better. And with this firmness in my forearm over here on the outside of my forearm, I get a much better release. I can see the putter coming up a lot better. Everything reacts better. And the last thing that I like the best about the impact is I'm hitting it much more solid, starting it on the line I want. But most importantly, I've gone. And I think it's turned me into somewhat of an aggressive putter. The balls are getting to the hole. And when they get to the hole, they're diving in like that jackrabbit being chased by a fox. It just dives in the hole. And the beauty of that is for me, my entire life, I would say probably 95% of the putts I miss don't get to the hole, even on short putts. Or if they do, they're just barely, I'm missing them because they're just always just curving off at the last second, which, as we know, if you read David Pelzen, when he talked about putting, he talked about the lumpy donut. The ball, it's about a foot from the hole, and the ball goes in it, and if it doesn't have enough speed to come straight out, that lumpy donut curves it off. And how many times have you hit putts that were you thought were going to just get there, and they were dead center of the hole, this far from the hole, and one way or the other, and you miss it, and it never even touches the hole. Now it stays on the line and dives right in the hole. So I've become a more aggressive putter without trying to be aggressive. It's just happening because the muscles are more active, they're more engaged, they're in a better position, and I got arcing, rotation, and release through the impact, and the ball's really rolling. So I've gone from being a so to speak, a wussy putter, and hey, we can't say there's anything kind of semi wrong with that. Some of the greatest putters ever, Jack Nicklaus and Ben Crenshaw, were die putters. But remember, man, they played the tour. They play on some of the best greens day in and day out, the fastest greens. But their feelings were to die the ball in the hole. And as we know, Dave Pelz once said, the optimal way to make more putts, and he said in his book, Putting Like the Pros, is the putt should be approaching the hole at a speed equal to taking it 15 to 18 inches past the hole. That means it's coming in there with a pretty good speed. And it's got a better chance, dead center, hit the hole, pop up in the air, and fall in. But putts that don't reach the hole never go in. All right? And so we have to maintain that aggressiveness, but I don't even have to think aggressive anymore. All I have to do is get in that grip and stand here and just by virtue, I got a better hit because I got a better release. And that's adding that little extra energy from the club to the ball and getting me that little extra distance I need that the ball's getting to the hole and just diving in. All right? And I'm making a heck of a lot more putts now. It's helped me on the long putts and everything right up to the short 3-footers. Because there's nothing worse to me than hitting a 3-footer wussy and it's dead center and all of a sudden it just curves off because the lumpy donut got it. So, as Ken always said, and I'm sure he's up in heaven yet right now yelling down at us saying, grip it like you play, provided you got a good playing grip, which is palms perpendicular to the ground and in the fingers. All right? So grip it in the fingers, especially in your top hand, and like I've just finally got to doing, and man, it's like night and day. So thank you, Ken, and hopefully it's going to stay in my repertoire about talking about it. So much in the fingers is going to make the big difference. All right, so from the Surge for today on how to get more solid and aggressive putts without even trying to think aggressive, just grip it like you play with that good grip. And like I said, I use the reverse overlap and everything. Grip it like you play, and I think you're going to see a big improvement in your putting because it'll help you release through impact and get that arcing, which hits it more solid, more straight, and with good speed to dive in the hole. That's it for today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.